What's up, guys? Welcome to the September Tidal Gardens live show. We're started early, like usual, making sure that the audio works and everything like that. Actually, let's officially start the timer. And we should be good to go with the choral portion of the show in about 10 minutes. Hello, everyone. If I sound bad or I need to turn up the volume, let me know, please. Good. Audio and video seem good. The timer started. Good stuff. Before we dive into a lot of stuff, let me do some quick bookkeeping and say my thank yous to the Patreon crowd as well as the YouTube members. So real quick, thank you very much on the Patreon side to Bill Russell, Brandy Camp. By the way, I saw Brandy for the first time on Dev's live stream on Reef Dudes, and so hello, Brandy. Christopher Frame, Harkins Aquatics, Jeremy Altman, Alan Jackson, this person's name, I'm so sorry, Allura Balergian, Chuck Admire, Don Bowman, Ernie Wallace, Jean A. Van Voorst, Greg Zimmerman, Keith Singer, Kyle Jameson, who I saw in chat just now. What's up, Kyle? Lisa Clow, Puddle Aquatics, Rebecca Hall, Reef Infidel, Rigoberto Rodriguez III, Santa Nomine, Scotty D, Skylar Korn, Sue Hemmons, The Classroom Reef, Thomas Tarrant, Tim Garner, Trevor Joseph Overbeck, and on the YouTube side, Jacob Reikerson, Sarah Edwards, Jerry Albright, Justin Harden, Joseph Posada, Jeremy Place, 328 Reef, and 2 Please Coral Reefs. So thank you guys so much for supporting the channel. It all makes a big difference. I got some big bills, guys. Got some big bills. So thank y'all. So welcome, guys. Welcome to all the early birds that came in bright and early for the sound check. Got Dan from the UK, it looks like. I was just talking to my friend that's over in the UK. I visited there, I think in 2019. Had a pretty good time. Oh man. So this upcoming month of October is going to be really busy. So we're not going to have a YouTube show for the month of October because 3 of the 4 weekends in October I'm going to be traveling. So one of the weekends I'm going to be in Chicago for Reefapalooza. I had met one of the owners of Worldwide Corals down in Orlando, and he really wanted me to attend a Reefapalooza. And so I wasn't able to go to the one in New York / New Jersey. So I told him that I would make it to this one in Chicago. And so I was planning on going with Nathan, and unfortunately he wasn't able to come because he recently went on a family vacation and he could not swing it with the wife to let him go on a weekend trip with me to Chicago. So then I was having dinner with another one of my friends, and I don't get to talk to him a whole lot. But I was like, hey, there's like this show in Chicago. Do you have any interest in going? And the thing about this particular friend is he owns a plane. And I was like, I was telling him, yeah, it's in Schaumburg, Illinois. And he's like, really? Because Schaumburg is really convenient. I've got a client there. They have like a small regional airport. And yeah, we can get there in like an hour. I'm like, sweet, let's do it. And unfortunately, he couldn't go because he has a business trip in Pennsylvania that same weekend. So now I'm left to my own devices as to like finding a ride to Chicago. So Chicago's a 6-hour drive for me, which is not that bad, but I'm not really interested in driving to Chicago at all. So I might just do the whole plane thing, commuter, not private. and make my own way. But yeah, like the travel part of it is the only part that like that bothers me about these trips, because once I'm actually there, I tend to have a really good time. But I haven't made any plans yet. I need to get a hotel, need to do all that stuff. So that's the Chicago trip for Reefapalooza. Then the next weekend, I'm going to be seeing friends in Detroit. We're going to be doing a lot of fun stuff. Like the entire weekend. It's a friend of mine's having a birthday. And then the weekend after that, I'm going to be in Dallas for Aquashella. And I am a speaker there. And I've got a lot of people to visit. So I've got like a very, very, very packed calendar for that. I'm going to be gone to Dallas for about a week or so, because there's a lot of stuff to do. So we shall see. We shall see how all that goes. What is up, Sagi? Tech Gear Talk. Shouldn't you be working on your videos? So Sagi is getting close to that 500,000 subscriber mark. He is absolutely like destroying. And I'm like sitting here thinking like I am just lucky just to get a video done ever. And he's cranking out like 3 a week. It's amazing. He's got like a stable of editors now, and I'm like, I would be jealous, except for the fact that that process takes a lot of babysitting, and I don't have like the mental bandwidth to do a lot of babysitting for editors, amongst many other reasons. Michael Piper, the kids at the classroom reef say hi. They enjoy your coral spotlights, and we have all learned so much. Thank you, Michael. I would like to be doing more coral spotlights. It's a little bit challenging because that requires a lot of scripting, whereas like the building updates and stuff like that, those are more on the fly. So the stuff that takes scripting, I just drag my feet like crazy on that. So yeah, I have something in the works, but I've had something in the works for months. Hopefully something will happen magically. Somebody out there will wave a wand and I'll actually get a video done. Kush Corals. So much money for Reefapalooza tables, but the Chicago crowd would love you. Yeah, I don't do tables. Yeah, I've done like this was a million years ago. Probably 2014 was probably the last time I did a table. I did Macna, and we did some local shows. But these days, I guess it probably would be a profitable venture, but I'm just not looking for that kind of work right now. I kind of missed like the prime time to do it. So like years and years and years ago, people would be able to show up with like a ratty, and I mean ratty, 30-gallon tank with no lights, and sell everything that they brought. Okay, cool. So I missed that hustle. Then when I was doing it during like the heyday of when Tidal Gardens actually went to shows and actually was an exhibitor, we would be lucky to like get $1,000 that day. That was like a good day at those shows. And then after I stopped, like the coral like hype machine went into overdrive. Like, I don't know, Instagram servers came online or something. I don't know. But then now people make like the big bank at some of these shows. And yeah, right now it probably is good, but I don't know. Because again, I'm not looking for that kind of work. And Tech Gear Talk is working. Of course you're working. You're a workaholic. I guess that's a good thing. I guess I'm working too, right? I'm seriously, guys, I try not to. Harkins Aquatic said he did not say he wouldn't fly first class. I missed the context of that, but I've only flown first class one time in my whole life, and it was because I got upgraded because of a canceled flight. I fly economy with the rest of the cattle. Corals and Ziploc baggies. Yeah, we've done worse. We've done worse. Way back in the day. I almost need to do some of these shows just to like get rid of stuff. But these days, I think everybody that's selling at these shows is like doing really high-end stuff. Not the stuff I want to get rid of. then make space with. Okay, so in about 10 seconds we'll do, we'll switch over. We'll see if my stream bombs out when I make the transition. But I do have a story about random stuff. Okay, here we go. Okay, coral selling has begun. Okay, so this chair that I'm sitting on right here, this is a really fancy chair by Herman Miller. It's an Eames aluminum group chair, so for all you stuck-up office people, you know what this is. Anyway, I won an eBay auction for this chair, and it was local because I think a big part of like my hesitancy to buy a chair like this is like it costs like hundreds of dollars to ship also. So I managed to find an eBay auction for one of these locally here in Ohio, and I was able to go pick it up. When I go and pick this chair up, it's at this warehouse, and it is the most random warehouse ever, okay? So these guys were like, they happened to sell this chair, but their real focus was like selling telecommunication stuff for like conference rooms and stuff. And this happened to just come from a conference room breakdown. But I'm looking around and I'm seeing like rugs and clothing and like Halloween decorations and like what is going on here. And long story short, this umbrella company that owns a number of different companies, they like just loot and pillage disaster zones or something. They acquire stuff for pennies on the dollar. For example, when like a hurricane hits an area and floods, they buy everything that's above the flood line from these like big box stores. So if your Target floods, if your Sam's Club floods, they will buy literally everything that's not waterlogged. And I'm like, okay, well that's a take, all right. But also I'm like looking and I'm seeing like new in box 80-inch TVs, okay. And I was just asking like, how much are you selling this stuff for? And so he points at the 80-inch TV and is like, I don't know, like $500. We're just trying to get rid of all of this stuff for floor space. And I'm thinking, my brain is just like doing cartwheels thinking, what can I use any and all of this random stuff in here for? So I made another appointment. I was like, I'll be back because I need to like come back here and figure out what we can even like grab out of here. But so yes, I did buy one 80-inch display, and I ended up getting it for $400. But they had like literal pallets of furniture from like Overstock.com. They apparently pillaged Overstock.com, and it was the most random stuff because you had to buy it 26 pallets at a time, and you don't really get to pick the pallet, and the pallets are arranged in no particular order. So for example, it would just be like a thing of new in box furniture that's all saran wrapped closed, and you just buy the entire pallet, but you need to buy 26 at a time. So if you need to like open a furniture store, they got your back because they're probably buying it for pennies on the dollars and they're selling it to you for nickels on the dollar. But it was, I just like looked at one of these packages that had like a coffee table, it had a gaming chair and a baby crib and some other stuff. It was like super random. And no joke, they had probably like 5,000 square feet of warehouse racks that was all Halloween decorations. Curious place. Anyway, that was my I need to get rid of random stuff story. Apparently there's other people that need to get rid of random stuff. Jonathan, what watch are you rocking today? This is an Oris Artelier skeleton. My nicest watch. It's the one I wear the least. One of the ones I wear the least. But it's nice. Tech Your Talk. You just reminded me of our horrible red-eye flight. Yeah, I think we flew. It wasn't Spirit Airlines, but it was one of those like discount airlines. I Frontier. We flew Frontier Airlines. And that was literally the only flight I've been so uncomfortable I was unable to sleep during a red eye. That was brutal, brutal. We went to Vegas for a trade show called NAB, National Association of Broadcasters, for like camera stuff. Okay, Billy Sprout. I'll backtrack through the comments. I'm just kind of like going by first glance here, you guys. Any tips on keeping Ultra Lepto happy? Mine from the last sale is kind of shriveled. So I think that what happens a lot with Leptos is when they go into a tank that's too clean, they don't tend to like that. So the times that I've seen Leptoceras really struggle, it's when that particular tank has got some kind of thing going on, like some sort of phosphate remover can tend to be really, really harsh on them. Any kind of ultra low nutrient method, some kind of carbon dosing going on, maybe even over aggressive skimming and activated carbon could do the trick also. They tend to like it a little bit on the dirtier side. And I know that they're particularly sensitive when people make a lot of effort to, I guess, over polish and over scrub their water. Chad K, aloha, beautiful pieces, thank you. I have a trip to Hawaii coming up in December. We will see if they let us onto the plane. I know that that Hawaii really wants to keep people out, assuming that you're even from Hawaii. I just saw aloha, and that only meant one place to me. Jordan M. I've never actually been to a frag swap despite having a small tank for a decade. Chicago Reefapalooza will be my first. I hear they're fun. I've never been to a Reefapalooza specifically. I've been to Macna's, I've been to Aquashellas, I've been to some of the local shows. But for a long time, I didn't go to any shows, period. It was just not my scene for a really long time, but I'm getting back into it. I think there's stuff about them that I enjoy more now. So y'all are lucky, I guess, if you wanted to see me. Can't imagine why. Okay, Jason Bohr. Question. I currently have some Radions on a 24, 28, 24 tank. Mainly LPS, but trying to get into SPS. What would you suggest? Another XR15? You could go a number of different directions. Now, your single XR15 is probably on paper good enough to handle the intensity requirements, to handle the spread requirements, but I tend to like to mix and match lights for like a home type display, because different lights have different strong points. The kind of the downside to an XR15, I would say, would be like the style of coverage that it's going to give you. So if you imagine like your coral here, you see how like the top of the coral is well lit, the bottom is kind of dark. So the problem that you're going to see there is, especially with LEDs, now Radions do a better job than a lot of other fixtures about illuminating some of like the bottoms and stuff. They do a better job of diffusion, but what's even better at handling diffusion is to have like strip lights as well, because you want to, there's a thing in photography where you want to illuminate, like let's say you're trying to do portraiture, you want to illuminate a face. You want the thing that's providing the light to be much bigger than the size of the thing you're trying to illuminate. So for example, I've got a softbox here that is every bit of 3 feet across. And I've got a globe over here that's every bit of 2.5 feet in diameter. So you want big, diffuse light. When you look at your Radion, it's this big, and you're trying to light an aquarium that's like this big, right? So that's kind of like a general light planning thing. So I think that's why a lot of people are kind of interested in these panel type displays that are more diffuse. So for example, like Orphic Atlantics are a big flat panel. There are it's the Neptune Sky, it's the Philips thing. The ATI Stratton, I think, is another panel type display, a panel type lighting system. And yeah, the idea is that you're going to get like a much more even coverage than something that's like a puck or like and I guess like a more extreme puck would be like a Kessel. It has like um, a single like, cluster of diodes. Olga, hello. Welcome to the stream. Chad K, have you been able to keep chalices close? I don't do that. I've seen in other people's aquariums sometimes they are able to have like two chalices like grow and even like grow up at each other. If anything like that happens in our aquariums, there's massive death going on. So our our policy is to give everything as much room as possible. In fact, I kind of like get on people's cases about trying to do too much consolidation. Here, I mean, I get the mentality of trying to be keep everything organized. And so when you see, for example, we've got these trays that have 25 holes in them, custom acrylic trays. And sometimes we might only have like 2 or 3 corals on a particular tray. And so it is it's really tempting to say, okay, well, if we only have like 3 or 4 corals here, we can put in maybe 10 corals on this other side. And that's when problems start because those different corals just go to war and you end up losing a ton of corals just for no reason. So I kind of like keep on have to hammering it home that no, separate this stuff out. We have extra room now, give everything their space. So no, we tend to not mess around with trying to keep chalices close. Yeah, going back to the lighting discussion, downstairs we've ordered some LED strips from Orphic to supplement our Ecotech Radions. There's nothing wrong with our Ecotech Radions, but we're looking to do a little bit more high par stuff. And given the choice of a number of different, I guess, lighting profiles, we went with like the side strips to kind of even out the lighting that we were going to get. Ernie Wallace. Oh, that's funny. Just got rid of my XR15 Pros and switched to the 6 OR3 bar. I was really happy with it. Nice. Yeah, I like the build of the OR3 bars. They're a nice high quality bar. The only problem that I have, and this has nothing to do with the product itself, but when I place an order with Orphic, it comes like from overseas, and it takes a really long time to get here. I think it takes 3 months or something. So yeah, we're still waiting on our bars. And I'm pretty sure it's been at least 3 months, 2 or 3 months that we've ordered it. And technically, I have a UPS tracking number for it, but I have a feeling that it's still very much either on a boat or it's in customs. But it is not officially like got into the hands of UPS just yet. But we've ordered, I don't know, like 16 OR3 bars or something like that for our tanks downstairs. I thought that proximity to other corals tends to increase growth. Don't know. That has not really been an experience of mine. Then again, we don't give corals that much room to grow because our tanks are pretty full. David E., at what pace do you generally recommend acclimating corals to higher light? Like, for example, 50 par every 3 days. You could probably go a lot slower than that, and it really depends on the coral. Certain corals handle adjustments to brighter light very easily and seamlessly. For example, zoas, not a big deal. But certain corals, for example, like Cephastria or something like that, some of these these, I guess, sort of lower light corals, they would immediately start showing signs that they're getting overexposed. So it really depends on what you're trying to acclimate. There's really no downside to going slower and less. I think that one of the most overrated things in when it comes to lighting is going to be like the par output. There's very few instances where you're going to benefit tremendously from cranking extremely intense light at these corals. And on top of that, it's going to affect your electricity bill and your cooling bills. So there's that. Which color OR3? We went with just the actinic ones. Let's see. MC Hammer Torch. I would like to build a peninsula tank with an eclipse overflow. Not familiar with an eclipse overflow. Is this a good idea? Thank you. Okay, assuming that I know nothing about this overflow itself. Okay, so this is nothing to do with that. The biggest downside with doing an overflow system for a peninsula tank, and we've got some pretty extreme peninsulas. Our peninsula tanks, actually all of our grow out systems downstairs are peninsula style, and we've got a big show tank that's a peninsula style. Those are very long aquariums. Those are 10 feet long. The difficulty is getting water from the surface of that, from that 10 feet away, to come back to that overflow. Sometimes people will install like a pump right at the other end to blow across to get back to the overflow, which is kind of unsightly because the whole point of a peninsula is you have this, the show end of the peninsula to be like a nice viewing area, and you're kind of gumming it up with pumps. So the way that we battled that was we put really strong pumps on the overflow side, but only on one edge of it. So it sends the water across and then it loops back around, and that's how it gets back to the overflow. Otherwise, no amount of surface agitation is going to stop scum from accumulating at the top. Olga, are prices higher lately because there's no corals from Indonesia? It's a number of reasons. From what I remember about Indonesia, there's still corals coming from that. I think a lot of it was probably just, this is pure speculation on my part, but after the first time in like the last 3 years that Indonesia stopped exporting, like the price of Indonesian corals did jump up. And there was the thinking that, are the prices going to stay up or are they going to come back down once Indonesia eventually reopens? And it turns out that no, the prices are just going to stay up. And a part of that also comes from Indonesia now that it reopened, because Indonesia sees that the price, the value is there. So from the importer-exporter end, all of those prices elevated. Also, because of COVID, getting flights was super difficult. And the price of transport of anything is crazy expensive. This isn't a coral related anecdote, but this is kind of a shipping anecdote. I was talking to one company and they were saying how a container, like a shipping container from China to here, used to cost about $6,000 to $7,000 for the entire container in shipping fees. That same shipping container now is $25,000. And it's going to get here way more slowly. So they had to cancel all kinds of purchases because when they did the math, it's like literally the profit of every single thing in that container put together would not pay for shipping. Crazy. So that sort of thing for a long time was an issue on the import-export side. But now I think that there's additional cost pressure because there are some bubblings out of Australia that are not looking favorable for inexpensive corals coming out of there. So you have like these different geographies kind of like looking at different types of restrictions and just the different shipping logistics issues. And then that leaves like coral farms. And coral farms by nature are going to be very expensive. So for stuff that grows extremely plentiful, like for example, a $30 zoanthid, not going to end the world, right? But for some of the stuff that takes a long time or suffers from mortality issues, like torches, for example, that's going to be pricey to have aquaculture. Slow growing, and you might lose a third of your stock for no good reason. It could felt like dying that day. Like stuff that you've been growing for like 3-4 years, all of a sudden, oh, a few heads, by the way, is like 6 months of growth. They just decide to die. And you can't import more of them because let's say Australia gets like funky with what they're doing. That's going to be a problem. So anyway, that's a long-winded explanation, but there's a lot that goes into the cost basis for a lot of this stuff. And just pure greed. There's that too. There's some stuff that is like incredibly expensive, and I don't really know why. Okay. What is a good resource to learn, keep up with coral taxonomy? Any specific journal or websites that you like? When it comes to coral taxonomy, I'm like not super militant about it. I try to keep up to some degree, but to a large degree, I also just want stuff to show up in Google for sales. The guy to ask would probably be Jake Adams. He's like, so when I met him down in Orlando, he was like, this is the hill I'm going to die on, to the point that I'm willing to be a jerk over correct coral naming for like scientific species names. So I'm like, okay, that's your jam. That's cool. That's not really my thing, but even like he gives me like credit for actually just saying Micromusa at all, like Micromusa lords. He's like, thank you for at least acknowledging some recent, like coral like nomenclature. So I try to keep up with it loosely, but it's not. I don't like go looking through literature for any of this stuff. I think that one place that I would probably start to look is anything by J.E.N. Viren, because he was kind of like the godfather of stony coral like nomenclature. And he had a book called Corals of the World. But I think that even like their website that sells Corals of the World, this like 3-volume thing, or I don't even know how many volumes there are, they say like, no, these books are out of date. You need to like just read our website or something like that. So I think it's an online resource now. So you might want to like check into that. Ecomarines, what's up, Laura? What's up, Gabriel? Gabriel Berkey, are you going to be at the Chicago Reefapalooza? Yes, that is the plan. I haven't made any travel plans yet because my super convenient travel plans keep falling through. But I am going to be looking at pretty soon here getting a hotel and probably a flight together. Okay, Phil Harden. Are Micromusa lordhowensis okay to group like a garden around the lower rocks? Yeah, should be fine. Now, just make sure that you don't mix in other things that might do battle. For example, Micromusa lords used to be Acanthastria lords. There's another Acanthastria, which I think has also been renamed, was like an Acanthastria echinata. And sometimes people would put those two together and they would fight and kill each other. So if you're going to stick with lords, stick with lords. They should be fine. Yeah, if you guys see me at any of these shows, by all means, feel free to come and say hello. People do it all the time. I'm not totally antisocial at these things. I might be a little tired, granted, but no, I am generally approachable. Okay, what about Favias? Do they do battle with each other? Okay, so the problem with Favias and Favites and things of that sort is that there's a good chance that what you were sold as a Favia or Favites isn't. And if that's the case, the problem that you're going to run into is you could get like some that are going to do battle and some that aren't. We try to play it safe and just keep all of that stuff as separate as possible. Okay, Koi Central Quality Koi. Can hammers, torch, frog spawn touch each other and live peacefully, or will they sting? Both. They're going to sting each other. Is it going to matter a whole lot? Maybe not. We've got a tank that we're putting together downstairs, and that tank it's going to basically be a Euphilia garden. So it's going to have all manners of the hammers, torches, frog spawn, and everything in between, because Euphilia, it's a big genus, and like the whole hammer, torch, frog spawn thing, it's kind of it's a very loose definition, let's just say. So yes, you can keep them all together. Even if they touch, it's probably going to be okay. Now, if you have like some super high-end torches and stuff like that you paid a king's ransom for, you might want to give them a little bit extra room just in case, right? But yeah, we've done it before. It's not the best, but it's not. It's a lot less likely to be super problematic. Yeah, when we talk about separation, it also depends a lot on how aggressive that coral is going to be. There are certain things that get sold as Favia and Favites all the time, and who knows what they really are. But sometimes they send out long sweeper tentacles. We have something called like a Scorpion King Favites. It's probably not actually a Favites, and it sends out sweeper tentacles. What else? Yeah, I don't know. Chris Cunningham. I had an issue with my tank. Red slime, algae, and bubble algae got out of control. I did a large water change and the algae is gone, but a lot of my corals are suffering. From a water change. So there's a couple of things that are kind of weird about that. Is that I wouldn't actually expect a single water change to do that much impact on algae. Red slime and bubble algae. I don't know. There's some missing piece of the puzzle there. Because if I did a water change in a tank that had red slime and bubble, first of all, I wouldn't expect it to solve the issue right there, and I certainly wouldn't expect the corals to immediately start suffering. Okay, cranium reef. Can you have two Lobophilia close to each other without them fighting each other? Maybe. I probably wouldn't, because Lobophilia, especially the ones coming out of Australia, are practically dead to begin with. Like, they're really fragile. Fragile to the point that I don't think that we've bought any in the last 6 months. Because for whatever it's worth, they come in really, really weak. And I think that they need to be fed a lot. And I'm not really sure what they're trying to eat because ours don't eat. Maybe it's one of those things where we have to like dedicate some manner of like closed off feeding just for them. But so far they're not working out. I would really hesitate to just to lump them all together and hope it works out. Chris Cunningham, how far gone can a scully go before it's dead? Usually if it goes downhill, that's a pretty bad sign already. But if I had to deal with that, I would look at providing some sort of like antibiotic dip to make sure that the infection stops, and then try to feed it like crazy to like try to boost it back up. Phil Harton, so playing safe, what corals do you like for the lower rockwork base? You can go a lot of different directions for that. Pretty much anything actually would work just fine. But just remember the basics, good flow, good light. You should be okay. Acro Breeder, what company do you recommend for T-slot stands? Well, we've been using Alufab. So that's alufabinc.com. Check them out. They made a site visit to here for the first time this past week. So I met the guys in person. It was good. Harkins, what are you doing, Drew? Harkins is like giving people time out. Harkins, chill. It's fine. It is fine. Because I was like trying to like figure out like what did some of these people say, and I'm really not seeing it. So yeah, chill for now. Let's see. Oh, what? were you pocket banning people? All right, let me fix this. I don't even know how. So yeah, so jury research, Kyle, Jameson, some other folks, Billy Sprout. Sorry, you guys. You guys got accidentally pocket banned by Harkins. Okay. All right, so Tavish Milton Baker. How can I get rid of cyano and dinos? I've increased my nutrients. What else can I do? That's a good start. That's a good start. And patience goes a long way, and just going through and siphoning it up. It's one of those things that that it's like when it comes like these nutrient levels, there's certain like pockets of nutrient that that certain things will do really well in. And so as long as you just maintain like a slightly elevated nutrient level, that stuff will go away. Okay, so let me try to fix some of this. So let's see. I think the only one that needs to get fixed is Billy Sprout. Okay, so let me see here. Let me see. Sorry guys, I need to like figure some stuff out. Community. I don't know how to do this interface at all. I forget where my band list is. I know I've seen it before, but I don't know where it is now off the top of my head. Okay, good. Harkins fixed Billy Sprout. Killing me, Harkins. Killing me. And Billy's back. I was trying to figure like, I wonder what he said, because we do have like the zero tolerance, you're banned forever policy here, but it's like maybe I missed something. So sorry about that, guys. And now everybody's on pins and needles. It's like, I'm not saying nothing. So anyway. Let's see, something about Aptasia. I'm just using Aptasia X right now. Oh, okay. All right, okay. I need to scroll back up. Gabriel Berkey, I'm dealing with dreaded Aptasia. Let's see. I will get to that Aptasia thing in just a sec. Tavish, recommended range for nitrates. I like 10 to 20 now. That's kind of like my happy place. Okay, so the rat Chad has some decent advice for Gabriel. Peppermint shrimp, Bergie and nudibranchs, filefish. I would probably add a copper band to that list if you can do it. So Aptasia is one of those things that like I'm pretty convinced are way better at this than you are, because we go through some pretty crazy stringent procedures to try to keep Aptasia out, and they still make it into places. Case in point, to get a coral into our new system, into this building, it has to be put into a quarantine tank, and we go through a roughly a 72-day quarantine, but oftentimes it's longer than that because we lose track and we start it all over again because we're not in any huge hurry, right? So we go through really long periods of time where that coral is in quarantine and we absolutely do not see any Aptasia. It gets out of quarantine, and sure enough, some random Aptasia just pops up. We remove that Aptasia. Not a big deal. The next day, there's like a sexual reproduction of Aptasia, and it is showing up in like the strangest, most random places. Okay, so it's annoying that stuff makes it through quarantine and into your tank. So the best way that we've ever found to deal with it was just to put in predators. And the Bergie and nudibranchs have done like a great job at this, right? Peppermint shrimp we've used before on and off levels of success. The fish thing works really well. We haven't used the file fish, but we've used copper bands really well. It's just difficult to get a copper band in, healthy, and eating. That's the problem with them. But the nudibranchs, good stuff. But going back to my thing about me having like more faith in Aptasia than human intervention, we have fish quarantine tanks. When we're trying to bring in fish, we want to quarantine them so they don't kill all of our existing fish, right, with some disease. Those tanks have seen nothing but fish food, and like plastic decorations. That's it. And lo and behold, on one of these plastic decorations, there's an Aptasia. So it's entirely possible, I think, that even in the wild, to have like spores of Aptasia get consumed by a fish and then pooped out later into the quarantine tank, or it's just hiding on their coat or something like that. They're the mucus coat that they're on. They get into quarantine, and sure enough, you have Aptasia again. One time, I mean, I've seen like the craziest stuff like on a fish before. Like, you know those little Asterina starfish? There was literally one stuck to the side of one of my my fox faces. Like not a new fox face, like one that we've had for years. Yeah, there's like a starfish riding around on his side for like hours. Crazy stuff. So anyways, I really lean heavily on like the fish, the shrimp, and the nudibranchs to try to like handle all the Aiptasia stuff. And I promise you, if you haven't already, you will get Aiptasia. That is simply part of this hobby. You can try. I'm betting on the Aiptasia. Kyle Jameson, you're back. You're back. Okay. Cranium Reef. Got me a pink and green Goniopora. Do you have any good tips for succeeding with these? Have read as best I can. More fun to hear from a reefer to reefer, or tips with zoanthids and building a zoa garden. Okay, the zoa garden, I'll keep the zoa thing real quick and simple. Keep them clean, plenty of flow, they'll do great. As far as Gonies go, there's a big difference in Goniopora, different species and stuff like that, and how easy or difficult they are to care for. Now, what I found is like super helpful with Gonies is super simple. It's mysis shrimp. Like, we have gone so heavily on feeding these guys now that I treat them like I treat almost all of the other LPS. I turn off the flow, and then I take like that cloudy supernate and other kind of like smaller bits and pieces of mysis and just put it all over them, and just let them consume it at their own pace. And that's worked better for me than a lot of the powdered foods and stuff. We do the powdered stuff as well, but I've seen them now eat a full-on piece of mysis now, and I didn't think that was even possible before. But their food of choice really has been mysis, and we've been messing around with like a bunch of different foods now. So I have like a general idea now of what sort of foods these creatures kind of prefer. For example, our mushrooms do not care about mysis, not even a little bit, but they love the powdered stuff, like the benepets and things of that sort. Some don't really care, they'll eat it all. Some kind of get burned by the powder, and so we kind of like go chill on that. But when it comes to Goniopora specifically, frozen mysis is what you want to be doing. And same thing goes for like Micromucilords, mysis. John Condolia. Wow, you have a lot of nice zoas. Thank you. We're trying to build up a collection. For the longest time, we just had like a bunch of random ones seemingly, and now we're kind of more systematic with our gardening. Gable Berkey. I've never seen Bergias for sale, and you know why that is? It is because they're nocturnal and they are always hiding in the rocks or underneath stuff. So if I were to offer a Bergia for sale and somebody buys a Bergia, let's say that I'm like double the market price. Somebody's going to pay, right? No doubt. Somebody's going to pay, let's say $30 for a Bergia. When it comes time for me to pack, I don't know if I can find one, like in a pinch. Like I know we have hundreds, if not thousands of them somewhere, but to find one on demand for sale, it's like, I don't know. So if you buy corals from us, there is a small chance that you just might get one for free. I don't know who the lucky winners are going to be, but you might get one because they might be on the underside of a frag plug just hanging out, and we'll ship one to you by accident. The reef sea forever. I just throw away the rock that the Aptasia is on. Been free for a year now. So the thing that kind of similar sentiment, right? The most effective thing that we've done on the farming scale is to be able to isolate a single tank, fully break it down, give it a full freshwater bath, scrape it down, and then replumb it into the tank, fill it back up, dip everything, retray everything, replant everything if necessary, and then put it all back. And that includes like, taking the fish out and all that stuff. But it's like the full single tank breakdown, single tank restart. Because that it's not perfect because again, it's part of like a bigger system, and at some point like vermitid snails, Raptasia or whatever, they're probably in the pipes. They're gonna come back. But it buys you a lot of time. And you know that because you've done the process, it'll buy you like months before anything becomes even a noticeable issue again. Because for a long time we were doing whole tank treatments, which are like super aggressive. You're going to lose fish, you're going to lose coral, you're going to lose all kinds of stuff. And within a few days, whatever you were trying to treat for comes back, like a flatworm or something. So we've done away with that. And we just went with like this hard reset, and the hard reset has worked. So his comment about like throwing away your rock, it's not an overreaction. Having said that, I never believe somebody doesn't have Aptasia. It's one of those things where like, give me 10 minutes, I will find one for you. I'm really good at finding them. It's like we see each other. Like evil knows evil sort of thing. The rat chat. I'm convinced Aptasia could literally survive the end of the world. If they're getting into tanks that have never seen rock or coral, they're seeing plastic and fish. If they can get into that, they can get into anything. Let's see. Anton, what if you grow stony corals to make live rock? That will take a really long time. Also, the stony corals that we grow in captivity, like they almost have like osteoporosis or something. Their skeletons are like super wafer thin. It's not like the dense, super strong stuff that you get from the ocean. Kyle, welcome back, Kyle. Where do you guys get your amino acids from? I haven't tried them yet, but I want to reap those benefits. Okay, we haven't done aminos in a long time. That is slight neglect on our part. What we were thinking about doing was we have a lot of the powdered stuff from like, brosciencesupplements.com. I mean, find like a bulk additive thing for like the health foods industry. And so just like pick out the amino acids that you're interested in, throw it all into a blender, and then make it on demand. Because when we started to do it in batches, what we noticed is, oh, you know what? There's no like preservatives in this stuff. And so after like a couple of weeks, this stuff smells completely rotten. So that's like, oh, maybe we should just do it like one batch at a time. So I just have to get a blender and try that. Excuse me. Tavish, do you have any bubble coral? Not for sale, unfortunately. We have one sitting in one of our tanks. So the problem with bubble coral, they're not uncommon. Are they expensive? Meh, kinda. For us, I mean, we can make some money out of it, whatever. It's not a business decision. It's entirely the shipping of these things. They are kind of delicate to ship. They are usually big. And they usually will show up to the customer, beat to hell, and it's not a thing. Like that's one coral that you're probably better off just buying locally. I mean, you can. I'm sure somebody can ship one to you in decent shape online. It's kind of an ordeal. Alex Sulueski. Hey, is it bad if my magnesium level is 1,500 parts per million? Definitely on the high side. I wouldn't really go too much further than that. Brian Mahoney, is your warehouse in residential zoned land or is it industrial? It is technically residential. So I'm in a weird place. I'm in what's called R3. So there's R residential, 1, 2, and 3. And the residential 3 is actually a residential and agricultural hybrid zoning. So there's a lot of weird stuff that I can do on this land that is kind of through the agricultural component of the R3 zoning. For example, I can have a stand at the side of the road that sells, quote unquote, anything that is grown on the property. So they intended for me to have potatoes and tomatoes and carrots, okay? Technically, I could probably put up a stand selling coral roadside on a state route because of my zoning. Also, I can get agricultural exemptions to build agricultural buildings. So this building is an agricultural structure. My greenhouse is an agricultural structure, blah, blah, blah. So that's the story. That's the story there. When in doubt, be agricultural because it's kind of nice. Billy, also welcome back, Billy, is a browned out mint pavona salvageable? Sure. Yeah. If you just give it the conditions that it's happy in, it'll bounce back. Pavona are tough. Okay. Reef Rumpelmans. I've purchased Paleothoa grandis about 6 months ago. Is it still a single polyp? Is there preferential placement to encourage growth? I have it under 50 par and lower level. Okay, I'll make it real simple. Stuff it full of mysis every day, and it will grow many, many heads very quickly. Billy Sprout. Than is Aptasia. Now you get banned. No, I'm kidding. Yeah. Aptasia, you almost have to like respect the survivability of it. I mean, I remember back in the day, this was back when you could buy like real live rock at a store, and I remember like seeing it was probably an Aptasia, because there's certain other anemones that kind of look like that. But I was like, hey, you know, I saw one there, and I'm thinking, man, I want to buy that piece of live rock because it came with an anemone. You know, it's like I'm getting over. But no, it turns out. Well, here's what's funny. Okay, as we get better at this hobby, have you noticed that certain things that back in the day used to have market value are considered pests today? For example, there are certain chalices that grow very rampantly and are aggressive. So a lot of people are like, man, I don't want any more of that Hollywood stunner. That took over my tank. Or a large plating Montipora, like a Montipora cap. And all of a sudden it's like stuff that people used to pay, $20 to $50 an inch for. It's like, oh my gosh, I have so much yellow cap or orange cap. This is a pest. Or green staropobs, they're a pest. It's so cyclical how as we get better at growing coral, the stuff that grows the best all of a sudden goes from like, oh, we love this stuff, like Xenia, this is beautiful stuff, to oh my gosh, never again, and it's a pest. And I think that, I mean, maybe I'll be perfectly honest, Aptasia was on that list. You don't remember this because many of you weren't born in the 80s, but that stuff was sold for money as anemone rocks, and it would sell. Legit. People purchased Aptasia on purpose for being Aptasia. Let's see. I'm using a separate tank with some peppermints where I move rocks and other things with Aptasia on, in and out of. That's cool. Yeah. Lewis. I'm not going to try to pronounce your last name, Lewis. When's the next reef chemistry video coming up? That might be a while. So the reef chemistry stuff tends to take the most scripting, and I'm really slow when it comes to the scripting. Yeah, Michael Baldwin, no permits, or at least in Kentucky. Yeah, the permitting process for this place went very smoothly. The only time that we were ever really given any grief was when we were trying to collect rainwater, which we succeeded, but it's like they threw a freaking fit when it came to the rainwater part. You know what? I'll tell the story because it's funny. The problem with the rainwater collection thing was we were in like an election year or something, and there was all kinds of weird political stuff going on. So this particular health official that we were dealing with was just like a total stickler by the book guy. And he wouldn't deviate or have any flexibility on anything that wasn't in the book, because I learned later that he was being a jerk, but it wasn't like necessarily completely his fault. He had two bosses above him that were like real jerks that didn't know what the hell they were doing. This guy supposedly at least knew what he was doing, but he was being like browbeaten by the people above. Whatever. So what was the thing that involved my project was what is in the official Ohio code for the rainwater collection system is that you need to have a cyclone filter. And there is a preferred vendor list for the makers, the manufacturers of these cyclone filters that spin out all the debris. Clean water goes to your cistern, wastewater goes out. So one preferred manufacturer was the only one in Ohio that was allowed to make these things, okay? The problem is that company went out of business. So what are my options? Nothing, right? Because this guy is like, nope, if it's not in there, take it up with the Ohio legislature. Make them change it. I'm reading what's on the page. It says you need to get it from this manufacturer and that's it. And that manufacturer's gone. Like, that's a pain in the butt. Eventually we got around the whole thing where we basically took it out of their hands entirely. So technically we are not regulated by them at all for that particular project. But yeah, that's the only time that we ever had any problems when it came to like the zoning or the approvals process for this building. Okay, Harkins, my Hellrider turned straight maroon. Any ideas how to help it? That could be any number of things. My guess is that could be a lighting thing. I don't know how much you want to be tweaking your lighting because it's going to affect everything else, but that's generally what's going to cause like a big time color shift in that particular coral. Yeah, Aptasia used to be sold as glass nems. And you know what? There's another anemone that's still being sold now that really looks like an Aptasia called a curlicue anemone from the Caribbean. We actually saw one on a price list, and Ben actually ordered it. I'm like, are you kidding me? Under no circumstances are we going to be selling curlicue anemones because they look exactly like Aptasia. Because here's the thing. When you've been in this industry a really, really, really long time, sometimes like the super bright, colorful, random stuff that everybody else gets excited for doesn't necessarily get you excited. The quote-unquote unique stuff gets you more excited. And unfortunately, sometimes that unique stuff looks either ugly or, in this case, exactly like an Aptasia. But yeah, look up curlicue anemone. Yeah. We actually ordered that garbage. We gave it all away. I didn't even let it into our water. I was like, it's in the bag. Somebody wants it for free. They can take it. It's gone. Yeah. Okay, Lewis. What's your favorite metal halide bulb spectrum? Good question. So I have used practically every type of metal halide bulb known to man up to this point. I haven't used metal halide in a really long time. I think my absolute favorite it's kind of a tie between the 14,000 Kelvin. I think those are called sunbursts. and the 20,000 Kelvin radiums. Now, I would say that there's like 3 different metal halide bulbs that are like truly legendary. So one was a 6,500 Kelvin Iwasaki, and it's very yellow, very gross looking. It has incredible light output, and it will grow corals out of your tank. That's how good that bulb is. Most people nowadays would not like how that bulb looks. It's a very, very yellow light. The second bulb is a 10,000 Kelvin Ushio, and all around excellent white light. But again, for like these times in Instagram land that we live in now, where everything has to be like only blue, that would probably also look too white for most people. Also an outstanding bulb. The 14K Sunburst, I don't even know if they make those anymore, but that's been like 15 years ago. But I still think that they make 20,000 Kelvin radiums. And so if you like that more crisp blue look, that's kind of the bulb set that you probably want to go with, the 20,000 Kelvin. They're going to be the most dim though. The light output is not strong on those. Mr. Best Shot 33. Do you have a system for keeping track of your corals in your grow out, like labeling the base or something? We do have a labeling system, and it's sort of helpful. We need to get back into doing that better. So we have these custom trays that are made that have 25 holes per tray, and we 3D printed a clip-on labeling system. And we've got a really like high-end label maker. And we were thinking that, you know what, we just might have to like just remake the labels each time that we want to clean these things. But for whatever reason, these labels can survive a dip in muriatic acid. So our custom 3D printed clip-ons and the labels, we can soak in muriatic acid to knock off all the coralline, and we're back up and running. Let's see, Alex Suleweski, do you think that there will be less coral in the wild due to climate change? That's already now. Oh my gosh. I think that like we're down to like under 20% of what we had in the 80s. Like it's like the vast majority of the corals are dead like now. So yeah, in the future, if things like continue to spiral, it's like, yeah, it's like goodbye. I mean, you can, if I encourage people to go diving, because when you see what stuff looks like now, and I've been diving for like a while, but when you talk to like the old people that were diving, like I mentioned his name before, but J.E. and Viren, like these like old school guys that were like the pioneers of diving practically. I mean, shoot, like it wasn't like, I think like scuba was invented in my lifetime. I mean, it's a fairly new thing, but even in those times, like they talk about how dense like the coral reefs used to be, and compared to what it is now, it's a shadow. Like you can't for you to find great coral reefs to dive in now, you have to go to places where it's difficult for humans to go, and even then you're starting to see like signs of death and decay. But for example, like the best diving in Hawaii, shocker, it's not going to be off the coast of Waikiki. It's going to be a 4-hour rough ocean ride in Kauai, like the least populated island and the most difficult coral reef to get to. It'll be a 4-hour boat ride, and you will throw up once you're about an hour into it. It's going to be rough, but when you get there, it'll be worth it. And then it's going to be 4 hours back, and you'll throw up again. But yeah. Nope, I don't have high hopes. I am not that optimistic. Let's see. Kyle. Than, you guys ever experience inside out umbrella effect with zoas? Yeah, but it's not too common. My Pandoras are the only ones doing it. I'm suspecting low phosphates, but I'm not sure. Somebody else said probably not low phosphates. I don't even know why they do that. It happens occasionally. 1 out of every 1,000 polyps I might see will do that. Bruno Bars, can Indo and Aussie torches touch in your experience? Yeah, they're still gonna fight. Will they kill each other? Maybe not. Considering their price point, I wouldn't be in a huge hurry to risk it. David L. We dove in Roatan and the reefs are trashed. Not a shock. Not a shock. The last place I went diving, scratch that. The last place that I went into a coral reef because I didn't go diving was Vietnam, okay? And the Vietnam coral reefs are still nice. That was 2 years ago. I can almost guarantee you those reefs are going to be dead next year. Like the amount of trash that was in the water was shocking. Like we were at a resort where I swear, like we were in this place that must have cost $1 million. No, not might have. It cost $1 million. It's like this beautiful resort. Beautiful resort. We were in some kind of like crazy townhouse penthouse thing. It was like myself and like 6 of my friends, and gorgeous. But I remember this island, which by the way I think got electricity 5 years before we showed up, and is now like sprawling, like cool, awesome resorts and stuff like that. But every morning a garbage patch would show up, just like from the ocean, a garbage patch. And it would have to be cleaned up. And I remember taking a picture of it, and it was like, if you can imagine like this big desk in front of me, and this phone sitting on this big desk in front of me. This phone was like a bus, and the entire desk was the garbage patch, and it would show up every morning. Like stuff the size of like a refrigerator would be in that garbage patch. I remember getting onto the boat for our little boat tour where we would go snorkeling later. I remember having to dodge like a speaker that was like floating in the water and just stuff. It was really, really, really gross. And then once we finally got to the reef, it was on an uninhabited island, and still I'm like, this stuff looks good now. I don't know, dude. Because that whole island thing was just getting started, and I just know that like when tourism goes crazy there, those reefs are done. Super done. Let's see. Who's seen Chasing Corals highlight and how quickly corals will be gone? I saw Chasing Corals. You know what's crazy? Small world. The guy, the PR guy that was in Chasing Corals, we actually communicated. Like I think that they are using some of our imagery as a part of their project. So that was kind of cool. So yeah, I mean, I don't talk to the guy much, obviously. But yes, we've actually talked to the Chasing Coral guy. It's kind of neat. I have some hope because they're deploying garbage collecting ocean drones. Cool. I haven't seen that, but I've seen the garbage. Yeah, there's some serious problems that are happening in the ocean for sure. Like I said, take up diving. It'll give you a fresh perspective on what your aquariums look like, because you will come back to your reef aquarium and think that like, oh my god, I am perfect because of how my tanks look. Like you haven't seen a cyano outbreak until you've seen one in the ocean. Let's just say, like nothing in your tank looks like a cyano outbreak that's in the ocean. Good grief. Yeah. Like things can get real gross real quick. Let's see. Lewis, last question. Do you know what happens to the nitrate and phosphate eating bacteria if you don't have any nitrate or phosphate on the test kits? I don't know about that, unfortunately. I'm assuming that they just die off. But yeah, that's probably what when stuff just runs out of fuel, it just runs out of fuel. Now, I know you didn't ask, but I'll say it anyway. I'm not a huge fan of carbon dosing to directly remove nitrate and phosphate, because just in my experience, it's hyper aggressive, and a lot of corals tend to prefer it on the slightly dirtier side. I think that if you would have to have a very specialized tank and a very specialized reason to want to do something like that. I wouldn't just go willy-nilly with that. Lothario Bow. Any advice on how to keep bone cutters from rusting? Yes. This is going to sound incredibly inappropriate, but I have found like the best stuff ever on Amazon. It's like this synthetic, it's kind of like a synthetic silicone. It is literally called Super Lube, okay? And since discovering that, I use it to protect all of my stainless steel stuff. So we have the stainless steel, like 316L stainless bag staplers. We've got all manner of things. And I use that to clean everything. And we have these bag staplers that get constant like salt water splashed on them. And one of these things is easily 10 years old now and it looks perfect. It looks perfect. It looks like it's like fresh out of the box new, because we are diligent about keeping that stuff clean. Having said that, what typically happens with bone cutters for us isn't the rust, it's the little thing that kind of like the spring bar tends to fail on them over time, and so we just get new ones. But if you really wanted to keep it clean, just a little bit of that lube stuff is like perfect. Okay. Don Leo Sando. Welcome from the Netherlands. Awesome. I have not visited. I want to. After COVID, when they let me back into other countries. Are you already using ozone in the filtering? Okay. Here's my ozone story, and this is terrible. And by the way, Steven, if you're watching this, I apologize in advance. I have an ozone unit that was gifted to us by Ozotech. I have not installed it yet because I have no ability on the system that I want to put it on to monitor ORP, oxidative reductive potential. So that's like your check on your ozone system. Technically, though, I do have an ORP monitoring system. It is also sitting there, new in box, right next to the ozone system, because I haven't gone through and actually assembled it all just yet. And it's been sitting there for a good long time. So I apologize in advance, you guys. I do plan to use ozone in one system to try it out and see how well that goes. We're just really busy, and I'm also really lazy. So we have a GHL controller set up. I have an alkatronic and this ozone system that I haven't set up, and it's been easily 3-4 months. So my bad, guys, my bad. Let's see. Adrian Mitchell. Blessings. Locked on from Trinidad. Awesome. Welcome from Trinidad. Yeah. Nature bats last. Stainless steel only means it's stainless, not stain proof, and there's stain proof steels. Did not know that. So, okay. So if the way that I approach like metals when it comes to like in and around water here, stainless is good, but it has a very finite lifespan. I don't expect it to last forever, but if you are like really diligent about cleaning it, it'll do okay. Now, we have some components that actually touch the water that are metal. Those have to be titanium, because there's a probe that we have That's for our water system. And it measures the pressure in the line. And it's been acting up lately. Just like from the last couple days, it's like, it's not behaving exactly like I like it to. What's up with that? And I looked closely and it's rusting like crazy. It's like, oh, right, because it's stainless. Everybody says like, oh, it's marine grade, blah, blah. No, it's really freaking not. When they say like stainless is marine grade, part of that is like the rust resistance, not proof, resistant. But the other part, it's more like it has copper in it, which prevents stuff from growing on it because it kills it. So yeah, not the best, not the best. So I'm right now shopping for titanium transducer pressure probes for my water system. This is the fun you have, by the way, when you have a coral farm. It's like you find yourself constantly shopping for obscure stuff, and no matter how much it costs, you have to buy it now. Like, I just hope it's under $1,000 for this dumb probe that nobody buys, because nobody needs a stupid, titanium pressure probe. Yeah, Harkins is right. Titanium or bust. It's got to be titanium. But again, nobody makes titanium bone cutters, right? It's stainless. So I should put an Amazon affiliate link for the super lube. You can blame it on me, guys. Okay. Thomas, what is a good height for the Kessel A360 for an 18-inch? Okay, dude. You're gonna so the beauty of like the hanging thing is you can kind of like tweak the height, right? You're gonna have to play with that. I would almost look for coverage more than I would look for intensity. When it comes to the intensity, it'll probably be bright enough to keep a lot of corals happy. But that type of light is so directional. The spread is the thing that concerns me the most. So you have to find that careful balance between having enough spread for the corals in the tank, but not having too much spread that's bleeding all into your living space. Brass infused stainless is marine grade. Yeah, sounds about right. Okay, real quick, guys. I gotta run to the bathroom. I'll be right back. And I'm back. Just pee in the ocean or swimming pool. Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think of anything else that's new going on around here. Oh, we did kind of like solve our dehumidification problems. I got two like standalone units that are now operating downstairs, And I don't know if I told you, guys. I'm sure I must have told you this story before, but I got two different quotes for like a pool dehumidification system that would sit outside the building and get tied in. And both of those quotes are like over like $100,000 or something. It's crazy. And I was like, it's done in Orlando. I was visiting Top Shelf. I was meeting those guys for the first time. And they got a unit by Quest, which, Quest, they kind of specialize in like the weed grower space. And they have this Quest dehumidifier unit. And I guess the problem, if there is a problem with those, is that they blow the heat right back into the room, so it's taxing on your air conditioner. And like in Florida, that's probably going to be pretty bad. In Ohio, it's bad, but it's not as bad. So I know that their price point on those is, let's say, 10 G's, okay? $10,000. So I'm thinking, okay, there is a dehumidifier out there for $10,000 that is working okay for Top Shelf. It's not perfect, but it's working okay for them. And then there's this super high-end pool dehumidifier that's $100,000. I'm like thinking, guys, between these two possibilities, there has to be something that's going to work for me, okay? So anyway, I found these two little units. They're not little. They're decent-sized units from Quest. And they dropped my relative humidity from about 80% to 49%. And I just run them at night because they're kind of loud. So I just turned them on before I leave for the day. They run all night. I come back and this place is dry. I love it. And at some point, yeah, it kind of like tops off at that 50% relative humidity, because anything more than that, and then you're just kind of like fighting the evaporation coming out of the tanks. But it's still good. So now I have like a lot of confidence with just devices and stuff like that here, because for the longest time I'm thinking like, man, 80% humidity, that's going to eat through a whole bunch of stuff and grow some gnarly black mold. So I'm super happy that I got that taken care of. Kevin Smith, any recommendations for par meters? There's really only one that anybody buys. It's going to be the Apogee 510. I know that Apogee made a slightly less expensive model before, the 210, but the 510 is the one that you want for this hobby, because that one is kind of geared more towards like the bluer light spectrum. It's more sensitive to the blue light. So it's going to give you a more accurate reading of what your tank probably looks like these days. Snap goes bra. Hey Than, what's your favorite color to find in corals? I like red and I like yellow, so I'll give you two colors. Those are the two relatively uncommon colors to find. You can find red more easily, but the yellows, that's like the icing on the cake. Yeah, Kyle Jameson. Yeah, 50% humidity is wet for us here in Tucson. Yeah, I know. Like out west, you guys kind of have it easy, right? Well, you have it hard for other reasons, but you have it easy for humidity, because you can just run like an air exchanger, because we have 4 air exchangers, right? And those kind of, okay, they do their job in the sense that it does swap out all the air inside for the air outside. And it does it in a very energy efficient way. But so that helps us with our pH and stuff like that. Okay, but I was hoping that we would have times like the dead of summer where it's dry out, that would solve that would solve our humidity issue inside the building, because you're swapping in the dry air from outside with the humid air from the inside. And then in the dead of winter, same sort of thing. swap all that humid air out, bring in that dry, cold air in. Well, it's reheated air, so you're not losing a ton to the heating and cooling process. But that doesn't work in practice here in Ohio, because it's like, like that meme, the Hulk, where it says, like, my secret is I'm always angry. Well, Ohio's secret is it's always humid. There are maybe 5 days out of the year that are actually dry. Every other day is swampy. Today is swampy. Yesterday was rainy. So this building, simply put, needed a dehumidification system. Now, I don't regret putting the air exchangers in, because it does to perform the function of keeping the air in the building fresh. But for humidity control, does not help us at all. Maybe 5 days out of the year. But out west, yeah, just have these air exchangers and just swap it all out. It's fine. Now, you guys do kind of have to like fight off that 100-degree temperature, and scorpions and tarantulas and a puma, whatever the heck else you guys got going on there. But humidity is not one of those problems. Alex, thoughts on Reefroid's coral food? We've used it before. It's good. I kind of like mentally lump all the different powders together. Like, I couldn't tell you, I couldn't do the taste test and tell you which one was Reefroid's. It's like, how there's some people that are like experts at like, sipping rum, and they can do like, this is like a 26-year-old aged rum. This or like the whiskey guys, like, oh, this is a Blanton. This is fantastic. I don't have the palate for that. I don't have the palate for the different powdered coral foods. They all seem okay, more or less. Yeah, black mold is nuts. Yeah, black mold is no good. And also, we are using like sound panels all over the place, which is like the perfect substrate to grow black mold. And I'm like, we can't do this. This building was kind of expensive. These sound panels were kind of expensive. I can't lose everything to freaking mold, right? Let's get these dehumidifiers and see if they work. And they did. Jordan, whose tanks had those gorgeous orange, black, white tunicates in them? Unfortunately, mine, excuse me, mine did. They don't do well. Okay, here's the funny thing about tunicates, guys. I can grow the ugly ones just fine. The pretty ones die. Go figure, right? Same tunicates and sponges, same thing. It's like, can tidal gardens grow sponges? Yes, they are gray and they kill corals. Can you grow like the pretty orange ones? No. Same thing with tunicates. I can grow like the grayish purple ones that kill corals. I can grow those tunicates. I can propagate those tunicates for you. I guess I shouldn't say they kill coral. They kill coral just like algae would kill a coral, right? Everything wants to like carve out their space on the reef. So it's kind of in that ballpark. Tender Dove, how can you tell if a fox coral has too much flow? So a fox coral has a skeleton, and this is the same sort of thing with elegances and bubble corals and whatnot. You don't want it to kind of be blowing to the point where it looks like it's being like separated from its skeleton. Like, that's too much flow. Let's see. What is your experience? This is the Rat Chad asking. What is your experience with acclimation of larger mushrooms? I've had plenty, but I've got some that are large species that have large stalks. It's been a week and they aren't as big as they were. So I don't know if that's an acclimation issue. When bringing stuff like that in, we don't take any more than 20 minutes to get them from their original water into our tanks. But when you're talking about mushrooms in general, I would look at how clean you have your current tank, because mushrooms do not do well in high flow, super clean tanks. Um, I would look at that first. The tanks that have done best for us have been these lower flow, practically neglected, disgusting looking aquariums. And on top of that, we would feed some of that powdered food that we were talking about, because it didn't really hit me until we started to do this a lot more systematically. But a lot of these mushrooms ignored the frozen food, but really went after the powdered stuff. Andre, are there bad sponges? Because I have 4 species growing in my tank. I mean, can they harm corals? Yes. Any fast growing anything can harm your corals. And sponges are more than happy. Like the ones I'm thinking about are kind of grayish white in color, and they can just like stifle a nearby coral. Dominique, how much electricity does the dehumidifier cost? That's a great question. And I don't have a great answer for you because we live in Ohio and we are kind of one of these states that the electrical cost is insanely low. I can tell you that it's basically a 15 amp device. So imagine it's an air conditioner. That's how much it's going to cost. However much that might be for you, Dominique, I'm not sure. So I guess let's do like a quick price comparison on the cost per kilowatt hour of electricity. I think in Ohio here, I am paying 5 cents per kilowatt hour. I believe that the folks over in California and like San Francisco are paying about 35 cents per kilowatt hour. So we are paying, what's that, 1/7 the price of a different state in the same country. This is also why I'm like looking at solar. I'm thinking about doing solar, even though as a cash investment to save on my electricity bill, it does not make sense currently, right? Because I'm only paying 5 cents per kilowatt hour. A very large solar system on my rooftop here would take about 13 years to recoup the investment. However, if we were 2/7 the price of San Francisco for electric, suddenly my horizon is now like 5.5, 6 years. And you're talking about like, oh yeah, but my electricity's rate doubled. That's crazy. But I literally live in a country where there's another state that's paying 7 times my rate for electric. Like these things, I'm not going to go ahead and assume that whatever my current situation is going to stay the same. So I'm like looking at like some things to like offset the electrical usage so that I have some degree of energy autonomy. Because I can imagine just one day being like, hey, weird stuff in the energy market, guys. Prices are triple. I'm like, oh good, oh good. I'm so happy that I have these dehumidifiers and air conditioners. J. Lowe, what percentage of wild coral species do you think can be preserved by the aquatic industry? I would say, don't know about a percentage, but there are, I mean, I can certainly think of certain categories of LPS that are going to be difficult. So those would be things like scalemia and elegances and trachophilias, like a lot of these really slow growing single head big things, acanthophilia, that sort of thing. You can pretty much kiss all that goodbye. To sustainably do some of the other ones like pectinia, you can cut those and they'll grow back into like pectinia looking colonies. It's not like you're cutting a scolia in half and waiting like 1 billion years for it to turn back into a circle or anything like that, and hoping that you don't kill it. Good luck. You're gonna lose out on a lot of those slow growing LPS. And I sometimes wonder how successfully even some of the easier stuff to keep is. Because I consider like zoanthids, for example, an easy to keep coral. But looking back through our catalog of images, going back 10 years, there are literally 100 strains that we used to have that aren't for sale anywhere, period. Like there's certain like variants that we either sold too much of, and then the remaining ones that we had somehow got killed or eaten by something, or we lost track of it, or we just accidentally sold our last one, and our backup that we would have at a friend's house, their tank cracked. Stuff happens, right, over the course of decades. But there's at least 100 that are simply not in the industry anymore, and they were awesome, and I miss them. But yeah, so when you say like how many, what percentage of coral species do you think? Like theoretically, a pretty good number. In practice, it might be a lot less, only because there's people out there that really know what they're doing that still run into problems. And until we get a lot better at this, it's going to be even more problematic long term. Are the stringy purple sponge-like things bad? Not necessarily bad. I have a Cyphastria and suddenly all closed and the purple sponge is just not... Okay. Yeah, that sponge is probably bothering it. That's very likely. Matthew Davidson, best way to remove mushrooms off of a rock? You're not going to like the answer, but it is to get a very high quality hammer and chisel and break off small pieces of rock with it, with the mushroom attached. Graham, do you dose phytoplankton to your production systems? We do not. So we have in the past, but not in any real like systematic way. So it's not like I can say we had this great success or this great failure because we were dosing phytoplankton. It's one of those things where like we did it. Did we notice a change? We didn't really document it well, so just going off of like what it kind of seemed at the time was like, oh, it's okay, but it's not really a big deal. I think had we paid closer attention to that, it probably is a positive thing as long as you don't overload your system with it. One time, I remember I accidentally had a dosing system that got stuck on, and it dosed a year's worth of phytoplankton into an aquarium. And it was green at that point. Like the entire water column was green. I do remember I had a soft coral. It was a Dendronephthia, which is a non-photosynthetic, super difficult to keep coral. Practically impossible to keep. And these things usually just struggle and die. And I remember that day seeing it, and it was like 5 times the size and like super fat and healthy. So I think that there is an argument out there that there are corals that love phytoplankton and should be getting phytoplankton on the regular. And I don't know of other coral farms that religiously dose phyto, but I have to think that there's certainly a lot of corals out there that would benefit from it. We just haven't done our due diligence on figuring out what effect that would have in our systems and how we would incorporate that. Because there's a lot of stuff that we would like to try. But the problem that we would run into is determining what is a win, what's a success. Because there's so many variables at play. It could have been any number of things that are constantly fluctuating. And maybe that was the thing. maybe it was just time, and maybe we just did this other thing in the past, and it's only now that the system has really adapted to that methodology and it's really loving it. For example, well, we started Calcwasser like 3 months ago, and now like it's really hitting its stride at the same time that now we're starting Fido. It's like, oh, well, it's the Fido. It's like, it could have been, a change that we made a little while ago. So until I think that we have like a really regimented long-term system that we can kind of like A/B test with other systems that are more or less identical, it's tough to really say like what is and what is not like great. But Fido is one of those things that I think could be something worth pursuing. Kevin Smith, I just use Fido to thaw frozen foods before feeding. That is interesting. That's interesting. And Fido is it's not expensive or difficult to set up. I mean, I know people that just have like cheap shop lights. They have a starter culture. What's that? 15-20 bucks at most. They've got an air stone and a 5-gallon water jug from like a water cooler. Like, yeah, this is some easy stuff, you guys. And yeah, they say, yeah, we need to feed off X amount, fill it back up, and then put in some fertilizer and stuff, and it'll grow again. It's like, this is easy stuff, but it's not even that space consuming. It's certainly something you can play around with. Drew Harper is asking, do you have any experience treating zoopox? Yes. Is it something that can go away on its own, or does it need to be addressed to go away? Okay, so it'll probably go away on its own. It's also really easy to treat. There's two things that can really help right away. As far as treatment goes, there is a fish medication called Furan 2, Furan-2, and it's like this yellow powder that you make into a bath, put the zoas into the bath, blow it off, clean it up. And a couple rounds of that will probably do the trick. Alternatively, you could just put the zoas into a dipping thing, clean it off, and then you can just take like a little like wood carving tool or something like that and kind of like pop the zits of the zoopox. Pop, 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 pop. Clean it up and put it back. But the biggest deal really is the zoopox tends to come when a colony gets dirty, and it's almost like sores that form from like just too much dirt and grime on the colony. And so what I would recommend is just to have more flow directed at that colony, and you will probably not have that zoopox issue. But if you wanted to look for an acute treatment, that's pretty easy. The Furan 2 will work. But like I said, it's the root cause is probably you need to keep that colony cleaner. Graham Steinruck. Thanks, that makes a lot of sense. One more question. Do you have any experience with dosing calcium carbonate, i.e. cyano control and algae reduction? Somebody mentioned dosing calcium carbonate before. I didn't really know what they're talking about. Like, is there like a calcium carbonate powder that people are using or something like that? This is a seemingly new thing for me. I have not messed with that. Because calcium carbonate, that's just like crushed coral. And like dosing that, it's a powder. I mean, I don't really know what you're dosing exactly. I don't know what the end goal is supposed to be. Not really sure. So in that sense, I have not messed with it. I wonder if skimate would be sufficient for feeding phytoculture. I wouldn't bother. I guess like everybody just uses Miracle Grow, like literal like off-the-shelf fertilizer. Do your own research. I'm not a phyto expert by any stretch of the imagination, but Yes, from what I understand, it's just fertilizer, light and fresh water and bubbles, and you have a phytoculture. Now, I guess the problem that people run into is they make all this phyto and they don't use it enough, and then the whole thing crashes or something. Kevin's with calc. It's not calc because kalkwasser is sodium. No, it's calcium hydroxide, right? Yeah, it's calcium. You know, brain's not working anymore, guys. Okay, so there are products that they're selling crushed coral as an additive. Interesting. Y'all are gonna have to let me know on that. I do not know. Do not know. Because what's okay? Just out of curiosity, guys, what's it supposed to do? Is it supposed to like act like a calcium supplementation of some sort? Thanks, Dan. Apparently, Furane 2 has been discontinued, so I guess I'm gonna have to start popping some pimples. Huh. I thought I bought some last month, Drew. You know, out of curiosity, I'm gonna pull that up. I'm gonna try to shop for some Furane 2 right now. Furane 2. Okay, so interesting. It is unavailable on Amazon.com. Interesting. Interesting. This item has been discontinued. Why? What happened? It's probably like why watch? It's like super carcinogenic. I mean, I still have some though. I think I just got some. Why is Furane 2 not available? This is like new news. Yeah, it's like out of stock everywhere. What the heck? Yeah. That is interesting. Okay, so this is something about from the FDA. No, this is a labeling requirement. Why no Furane 2? Why is Furane 2 discontinued? Pourquoi? Okay, so somebody was saying it was discontinued way back in May. In like late May. So maybe I bought mine just before it went off the shelf. Huh. I mean, I know why like certain things were discontinued, but I don't know why Furane 2 specifically. Yeah, the only thing that anybody just says is, please note that the API brand medication product Furane 2 has been indefinitely discontinued, is no longer available through any of our suppliers. Interesting. Anyway, it sounds like you're gonna have to, yeah, pop some pimples and provide a little bit more flow to that colony. Let's see. I don't know if this is rumor or if I just saw this. Somebody mentioned before the live stream, but I guess like Ecotech got purchased or got acquired or merged with that same conglomerate that did like the BRS and Neptune Systems and Marine Depot thing. And I guess it was like both Ecotech and Innovative Marine Did you guys hear anything about that? I usually don't like talk about like the business side of things in that direction because I usually don't care quite so much, but it was news to me. Shabir Hussein, how to cure RTN or STN in Acropora? That's a good question. I really don't know. Usually what we tend to try to do is do like some proactive propagation and hopefully that the infection doesn't spread. But no, that's a bit more mysterious when that happens, unfortunately. I don't know if anybody's got like a great answer for that. There might be some dips that might work, but I don't know anything off the top of my head that works out really well. Yeah, so people were taking chloroquine phosphate. Yeah, so they clamped down on that because here. So I'm trying to do fish quarantine better. So I don't know, you guys may or may not have noticed, but I took down the 2 fish quarantine videos that we had up. So everybody does fish quarantine slightly differently. And I had kind of, pushed that responsibility onto Jen, and she doesn't work here anymore. So I was kind of like relying on her expertise and just kind of like going with like the way that she did stuff for the fish quarantine side of things. And I know that like the Humble Fish crowd does their thing differently. And then Laura, my friend in the UK who was in chat earlier, Eco Marines, she does fish quarantine on her end differently. And there's like some overlap, but then there's like other things that don't overlap. And like I'm quarantining some fish, and it's not going great. So I need to like refine my methodology, have a really, really, really sound understanding. And that's why I took those 2 videos down, because it's like, look, I would rather figure it out for myself, figure out something that works. That way I can at least defend my decisions and blah, 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 right? But one of the things, long story to get back to chloroquine phosphate, is I guess it's a really, really, really good fish medication. And it sucks because you can't get it because of that whole COVID stuff, because people were taking it and dying. So the FDA is like completely clamped down on chloroquine phosphate. I think I might know a guy that would sell me some, but it's practically like a miracle, like a fish QT medication, I guess. That's how some people describe it. And it works on like a broad range of things, and it's like these things that work you can't get. Also, speaking of my friend in the UK, I'll mention like these products that we use, and sure enough, like, oh yeah, you can't get that over here. They don't allow you to import anything like that. So stuff like what do you call it? Stuff like Bayer dip, the BioAdvanced dip, you can't do that. What's up? Available? I was just on Bulk Reef Supply. They didn't have it. It said out of stock. Huh. So my mom just said that she looked at Bulk Reef Supply and Furine 2 Bulk. I just looked at it. Can you close that door? Nope. Not there. Yeah, they have 2 products, but it says notify me when in stock. Like no one's selling this stuff. Yeah, not there. Let's see. Let's see. Tender dove. I was wondering what's the best way to get rid of pyramid snails. I have some in my tank and want to get rid of them so I can get a clam. Pyramid snails. That's a name I have not heard of in a long time. Oh, yeah, that's going to be you in a paper towel. We've had those come in on like astrea snails and stuff like that. It's basically just physical removal, and eventually you get them. Yeah. Uh, Brymac 1. It treats everything copper does, but it's much easier on the fish. Yeah, that's kind of like what I heard. So I was talking to Laura, and she was saying, because I was saying like, yeah, I was treating fish with formalin, and I had heard that formalin was more gentle than copper, and she's just like, yeah, no, formalin's really rough, and I'm like, ugh. I had heard the opposite because it's like, yeah, I could definitely tell that like certain fish really struggle with formalin. And so yeah, so now like because I thought copper was like super aggressive, and maybe it is, but she's like saying no. Compared to copper, formalin is way more harsh. And so I think that the humble reef crowd really likes copper as like the initial treatment thing. And I guess that chloroquine phosphate is like an even better copper alternative that you can't necessarily get easily. Yeah, tender dove. Thanks. I keep plucking the little buggers off. Yeah, that's pretty much what you got to do. Physical removal. There's nothing that's gonna like kill them. That's not gonna kill something that you want to have left alive. Uh, this is a little non sequitur, but Colt G, do you have any good recipes for ice cream? I just got the same machine y'all got. Okay, so it depends on how you like your ice cream. If you like it more like a gelato, you want to use less fat. So, but if you like the super creamy stuff, you want to use like straight heavy cream. So that's like the first differentiation. So that's the difference between like half and half versus full on heavy cream. Okay, that's a decision that you have to make for yourself. Now, what's weird about fat is that usually like when you're cooking like a steak or something like that, like the fat is like the thing that gives it that flavor, right? But in frozen stuff, fat works against you. Fat coats your tongue and masks flavor. So while like the heavy cream is more fat, it is less flavorful than the half and half. So I would say that the more gelato-ish side is going to be like the less creamy, and the more ice creamy stuff is going to be the more creamy. Okay, so that's one thing right off the bat. But then what I like some of the stuff with fruit, like strawberries, especially fresh. But I have gone heavy into like just a good vanilla, and you can get like really high quality like vanilla bean paste. That plus heavy cream plus sugar, and that's like fantastic. So like a cup of sugar. I know, guys. A cup of sugar, a cup of the heavy cream, and just like a dollop of vanilla, and it's pretty flippin' amazing. So give that a go. Chloroquine phosphate has no effect on COVID. Yeah, because they weren't even talking about chloroquine phosphate at all. Chloroquine phosphate will absolutely kill you dead. Yeah, it kills you dead. Okay, it's like if I eat 8 ounces of ice cream, I'll gain 8 pounds. Yeah, that's pretty much the case. Like we don't eat healthy here, guys. We try, but we bring in food. Like like the staff will occasionally like, oh, I brought in some stuff for the office. It's always like cookies, brownies, pies. Um, like really dense cheeses. Yeah. Nobody's bringing in a salad to share. There's none of that. We were at one time, like a year ago, we made smoothies, and that quickly turned into we're just gonna make ice cream. Oh man. No, but like, so if you're ever lucky enough to be like an honored guest of this place and actually allowed in through the doors, um, and I offer you ice cream, I don't care if you're lactose intolerant. I don't care if you're going to go see the ER later this afternoon. You should definitely say yes, because the ice cream that we make here is it is transcendent. It is no joke, absolutely incredible. Speaking of which, I should get back on that because I got some extra groceries. I ordered up some grocery delivery, and they sent me somebody else's groceries entirely. It was like bags and bags and bags of stuff. And luckily, it's all stuff I like. It's the craziest thing. It's like actually healthy stuff, like fresh fruits, some like Icelandic yogurt. By the way, this is at Aldi, so it's not even at some like posh place, right? They had some fresh greens in there. I'm like, dude, this is great. Like, thanks, yoga mom. You know, I got this other person's choices, and it's like it's working out perfectly for me. And then on top of that, they're going to be sending my original stuff that I ordered, $10 off, plus a free month of their premium service, so I don't get charged for deliveries for a month. So I'm like, it's like the best day ever. Nobody turns down Than's ice cream. That's funny. That's funny. Yeah, we so I was actually thinking about getting like a salad bar here just so that I would it would be like in my field of vision. So it's like, okay, at least I know that's available. I can just go and just make myself a salad real quick instead of like actually opening the fridge and then just eating something super super unhealthy. Ice cream gardens, exactly. No, but seriously, our ice cream is no joke. And especially the day that we get it. Like not get it, but the day that I make it, within about like 45 minutes of me making it, oh, like the consistency is ridiculously nice. Oh, the only thing that I can't do is chocolate, because I even tried to get like the super nice like Dutch cocoa, like the really 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 good stuff, and at best I can make a very sad frosty from like from Wendy's. It never turns out good. It turns out it turns into something that it's good to like scoop into your coffee in the morning, and that turns out like pretty fantastic. But as like a standalone ice cream, it's not good. It's not good. So anyway, let's see, where are we on the list of corals? How much longer do we go here? We are on item number 212. Not bad. I think that we're going to be going to 230 something, 250. So we have a good ways left. So if you guys have any other questions, gotta hit me up. Oh, the other thing that I would like to try is like some kind of like a coffee flavored ice cream. We haven't like messed with that yet. I sold my my grinder, so I can't like grind our coffee beans. Okay, let's see. Drew Harper is asking, why are mushrooms unhappy in my tank? Hammers, acans, blastos, Duncan, anemones are all happy, but mushrooms just are not about it. So we got nitrate at 13, pretty good. Phosphate at 0.07, not bad. Alkalinity 8.4. Calcium, magnesium. So everything is within range, right? So why are mushrooms specifically not doing happy? It could be a number of things. Off the top of my head, I'm thinking that it could be the type of mushrooms, or if we're talking about like Discosoma, that'd be a little weird. If we're talking like Recordia yuma, those could be dying for any number of reasons because those tend to be super duper sensitive. Florida Recordia tend to be tough. Rhodactis tend to be tough. So assuming that it is not a Recordia yuma, which is just fragile if you look at it too long, if you're talking about the other stuff, it might be getting... Also depends on what you mean by not happy, because there's been mushrooms that we've had that simply take 12 months for them to find their happy place, and not like we're moving them around. Like they take that long to adjust to their current place. For example, we were selling like a $1,000 discosoma. So Harkins, if you're still in chat, we were selling, we called it the goat because it was just like this crazy speckled, multicolored speckled discosoma from Australia. And it never split. We had like a couple polyps of it. We traded one here, we sold one there, but we just had a few polyps to start with, and we were down to one polyp. And we're like, we're just never going to sell it. We're just going to keep it because we've never seen one like it. We're never going to see one again. And lo and behold, hit that 12-month mark, and this thing started popping off babies like crazy, suddenly. So yeah, sometimes it's a matter of just patience and waiting the process out. But if you wanted to speed up the process, what I might try is to make sure that it's getting enough energy. So turn off the pumps and get some of that powdered food of your choice. I don't care which one you choose. And just sprinkle that on it. You'll know if it likes it because it'll basically fairly quickly wrap itself up and look like an onion. If it's doing the onion thing, it's eating. And it took me a while to discover that. Well, I've been in the hobby for like almost 40 years or something like that. So it's probably 30 years ago I found out. But when it does like the onion thing, that's when it's like feeding. And I noticed that like they don't do that for other foods. So it's mainly the powdered stuff that I tended to like. So give that a go. I'm gonna go get Snickers ice cream right now. It's a good idea. You know, it got cold here, guys. The week before it was in the 90s. This week it's like 50. So it's been chilly. Like my heaters in my house have been trying to like kick on and stuff like that. So unfortunately for me, it's not ideal ice cream weather. But you know, when you get like somebody else's free groceries and they've got like all this like fresh berries and stuff like that, it's like I might have to make some ice cream, guys. My Rhodactis love mysis. That is curious. That is curious to me because ours definitely sheds it off fast. And we're not talking about just a few Rhodactis. We're talking about like a whole bunch of different types of Rhodactis. All seem to really not dig the mysis at all, especially compared to the powdered stuff. But if yours is, you know what? Whatever it is that your stuff eats, keep doing that. Go for it. Graham, do you have a type of coral that you wish you could get? Not necessarily a type, but there are certain corals that I certainly miss. Yeah, we're always on the lookout for some super high-end stuff. For example, I know that like Top Shelf Aquatics, they've got like a really nice collection of like high-end acros. Those guys there are self-described stickheads, and they've really gone like heavy into that. So like when I visited, I mean, I would say that what looked like 70% of their store looked like Acropora, right? So I wanted just to get a whole bunch of variety from them. And it took us a long time to set up a quarantine specifically for acros, but we do have one up. We just started to introduce our own acros from the greenhouse to that system. So at some point, and you know what? Maybe soon I'll be talking with them and getting like a big package of just some variety from them. I'm always interested in super crazy Blastomusa. Unfortunately, the super crazy Blastomussa also have a tendency to super die, and it's hard to find very well conditioned ones that weren't recently imported that are going to die in a week. So I'm yes. So in that sense, I'm looking for like crazy Blastomussa. I love those. I'm trying to think what else is like difficult to get a hold of that I would like. Usually, it's always gonna be stuff that I can propagate. I'm not really into finding like that holy grail X coral that just sits there and does nothing for me. Like a Sinarina, I don't care if that thing is shooting rainbows out. I don't care. I'm sure it looks cool, but I just want something that we can propagate long term. Trying to think if there's much else that's on that wish list. Don't think so. Don't think so. Those are probably the two biggest on my hit on the list. Kyle, my wife is going to be in the Youngstown area to visit family. Are you guys getting fall colors right now? No, absolutely not. No, our colors are straight green right now. Straightest of straight green. I'd expect in a month or two, maybe. Okay, Ronald Lambertson is struggling with Bird's Nest. Keeps RTNing. Okay. Bird's Nest. Usually it is a light issue, right? So you said you tried low and medium par. And I'm assuming that low is like closer to like 50, right? Not, I tried low par of 175. No, it's like I'm talking like 50. I've noticed that Bird's Nest might not do great initially in a super duper 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 clean tank. They can be adjusted to it though. And I'm wondering if your nitrate might be a little bit low for that. Yeah, that's a tricky game to play, isn't it? Because 6 should be okay. I mean, 6 is on my low end. I like between 5 to like 15 to 20. If you were able to responsibly increase your nitrate to about 15, you might have better success. However, if you overshoot that by a whole lot, it might not turn out that well for you. Also, consider the sourcing of it. This is where I shoot myself in the face, right? But like, if you're getting a Bird's Nest from stuff that's recently imported, it could go pretty badly. If you're getting stuff from stuff that's been farmed, it'll do better. Watch, you got that stuff from me and it's struggling. No, we've been farming the same strains of Bird's Nest for years and years and years. So that's where I would try to start playing with right there, is like to elevate the nutrients ever so slightly and see if that kind of like helps them perk up. You might even try to like to do some amino acids. Just try to get them fed, long story short, like up the nutrient level. I think that's one thing that most corals would benefit from amazingly well, is to like just somehow find a way to feed them. Like, don't rely on lighting. It's certainly a lot more difficult, seemingly unnecessary, but the more that we've been playing with it, almost all of our big problems are going away now that we've been a lot more diligent about trying to feed. So I would, as long as you're able to keep it from spiraling out of control, I like elevated nutrients. But everybody does it slightly differently, so you kind of have to like find that sweet spot for what's working for you. I would think that with your hammers and torches and frog spawn doing well, there's nothing that makes me think that in those same conditions a Bird's Nest wouldn't be doing well. Now, the obvious thing is, do you have a fish in there that's eating these? Like, do you have a dwarf angel, for example? Because oftentimes, like, that's one of those little details that gets left out. It's like, oh yeah, I've got like a majestic angel, and I've never seen him bother this coral. I'm like, yeah, he's definitely eating that coral. Whether you see it or not, that thing is definitely getting eaten. Also, I'm glad that this red devil Diaceras just popped up, because that just made me remember. We almost lost every single one of these. And it was because we were doing like whole tank treatments for stuff. So I forget which whole tank treatment we did, but anytime that you do a whole tank treatment, whether that be like a flatworm exit, or whether that be something to try to kill off some pest, or you're trying to do fluconazole to kill off all the algae, or you're doing vibrant or something that's like a whole tank treatment to address a single issue, okay? That can kill a coral, especially a coral like a bird's nest. Absolutely could do it. Like especially a lot of things like algae, the same sort of mechanism that could cripple algae can cripple certain corals. There's a lot of like crossover there. So that's kind of like my mental checklist of like things that could have gone wrong. Let's see. Lewis, brown jelly disease is a bacteria in the tank that you can add something to the tank to kill the bacteria. I don't really know. I'm not like super well versed when it comes to brown jelly. Now I do know that that somebody was saying, and you'll definitely need to look this up for yourself, because I did not like eyes on paper read this, but supposedly when it comes like dipping of stuff that's suffering from brown jelly, the stuff that did the best was reef primer, which is a potassium salt based dip, and that somehow like under a microscope seemed to have the best effect on brown jelly. So again, double check my BS there, because that is some well, it's not made up, but it's some hearsay, right? I just heard it. Do your own research on that, but double check that. But that is something that I did hear, that that there was that dip that specifically did pretty well with brown jelly. Yes, we started 2 hours and 15 minutes ago. We are almost done, actually. I don't know exactly which is the last one on our list, but I'm sure that we're coming towards the end of the road, like Boys to Men. Okay. Do your trachees at your farm stay under sub 100 par? Yeah, they do. Trachees are a little tricky for us, not so much because of lighting issues, but a lot of it is because of where they're being brought in from. A lot of the stuff that we buy are Australian trachees, and they come in real fragile. And I think they come in real hungry. And I don't know if that we've found like the right mix of foods for them specifically. The lighting part's fairly easy. Anything 50, 100 par, they practically don't care about spectrum. David L. Look for Justin Grable on YouTube for using peroxide for brown jelly and general dip for algae removal. Okay. I know Justin. Nice guy. Be super careful with peroxide. Peroxide is about as aggressive as it comes for stuff to work with corals. It is highly effective at a lot of things, and you can super kill your corals with peroxide. So be very, 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 very careful with it. Emile Nguyen, are these prices good for a period after the show? Yes. The live show, we usually take it down right around like Tuesday or Wednesday, or usually closer to Wednesday. Like we say, it'll stay up for at least 72 hours, but usually right around Wednesday we'll take it all down. Reef AB do anything for them. I haven't messed with it. That's the Red Sea stuff? I haven't used that product before, so I cannot comment on that. Trying to stay away from reefroids. That's fine. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Sometimes like a lot of the powdered foods, I mean, you can like singe corals if you do it too heavily and stuff, but you know. But yeah, going back to the peroxide thing, yeah, go real easy on that. So let's see. Doing some bookkeeping here. Like I said, this is going to be the last live show that we do on YouTube until probably sometime in November. We're taking the month of October off because I'm traveling just about every weekend, and I just got a lot of stuff planned. But if you happen to be going to any of the upcoming shows like Aquashella in Dallas or Reefapalooza in Chicago, you might see me there. One of those weekends I'm just partying with my friends in Detroit. So there's that. But yeah, that's kind of the gist of it there. Yeah, and we'll see about getting some more videos out. Like I said, I'm working on a couple scripts. Unfortunately, that part's going a little slowly, admittedly. But yeah, hopefully sometime soon. I need to get on the making videos kick again. There's like so much just stuff going on here, and it is incredibly difficult to focus on video making. Let's see. Drew is asking, moonlights, yay or nay? It's fine, I guess. It's certainly not anything that I would pay extra for. Don't know too many people that would swear by moonlights being the key to everyone's success. A lot of features that lighting fixtures have are really to sell you guys on it. Doesn't have anything to really do with coral biology much at all. Like the storm and lightning mode is straight stupid. I hate that mode. Why so much for their glitter bomb? I don't even know what we charged for that. I didn't catch it, but they're shockingly expensive, and that will sell so fast. I don't even know if we discounted it. Like, I don't know if we can like do a couple like back taps, but if we did discount it, we didn't need to. Like, there's a long list of people that want that coral. It's insane. It's as far as Ganies go, it's probably the second most expensive Goniopora out there. Like, the most expensive is probably the Amazeballs. I think we just sold an Amazeballs for about $600, and I thought that was cheap considering like you can go online right now and you can find exactly 0 of them for sale. No one will sell you one. That's kind of for the super high-end collector stuff. You can't even find some. There's a red glitter bomb out there. Okay, nobody even has a picture of it. I know that it exists because there's somebody local here that had one, and she on her personal Facebook had a picture of it. Okay, and I wanted to buy it. She said there's a long line of people that want it. I'm like, that's fine. And unfortunately, I checked back a year later. She had already sold the one that she had, probably for a king's ransom, and literally there isn't even a picture I can find of it anymore. That's how rare some of this stuff is. And I pretty much guarantee you that could be mid 4 figures to whomever. Like, there's collectors I know that would easily pay $3,000-$4,000 for that coral. Yeah. So I'm on the hunt. Somebody was asking earlier about corals that, is there a coral out there that you wish you could have? It's probably like a red sparkle Goniopora. That's a good one to start with. Yeah. But legit, it's like a Yeti. I mean, you can't even see footage of it. That's how uncommon those things are. Tender Dove. How many colors of candy canes are there? Oh, we started over. Okay, so I'll just answer like a couple more questions, then I gotta go. How many colors of candy canes are there? Because I know I've seen green and light blue and purple, but is there any more like red and oranges? No, not so much like red and oranges. And you've pretty much seen like the gamut there. Let's see. Superingo 15. My Zoa is reaching for the light even when it's under 200-ish par. What is wrong with it? Probably nothing. It could just be that type. Is price a function of supply and demand and the growth rates? Price is always a function of supply and demand. That's why wood and plastic is expensive, and glass. So I will share this little story with you. We're getting some new glass aquariums made. Our custom manufacturer said, we need to finalize dimensions and everything immediately because I need to place this order for glass right now. My glass supplier just contacted us and said, you need to order everything right this second because the next shipment of glass is going to be double in price. So that's supply and demand for you. So anyways, guys, thank you very much for hanging out with me this afternoon. Hope you all had a good time. And we will see about doing this sometime in November. All right, guys, take it easy. Have a good weekend. Where's my display thing here? All right, bye.